I want to bring in Jordan Sachs. He's the head of healthcare listings at the Nasdaq, joining us via Skype. Jordan, right now the conversation has been so focused on the fight against the virus. Is that what's underpinning a lot of the healthcare sector strength, or are these companies that would have eventually found buyers anyway?
So COVID is definitely bringing biotech and all of the innovation that biotech brings to the world into the front center spotlight. But it's always been a really strong sector when you look at overall performance and just as percentage of new issuances coming to the market. Healthcare has always been a majority of that new issuances because investors really are looking for that long-term opportunity where they're going to see innovation put to work that's not subject to a quarter-to-quarter impact on revenue. So the nature of the biotech is much more, investing in today for tomorrow's future. When you look at some recent IPOs that invested a few years ago, and you fast forward to where we are today, like a company like Moderna, they're on the forefront of working to solve the challenges and the therapeutic vaccine issues that we have with COVID. So I think if you take that long-term perspective, you're going to see why the biotech play makes so much sense in the long term.
What do you guys see at the Nasdaq? I imagine you have a pretty interesting perspective, having the main listing for a lot of these companies in the Nasdaq Biotech Index that we see is at an all-time high right now, just below it. Is it generating interest from investors? Are investor relations teams getting inundated with calls? Are there share actions going on? Walk me through kind of how this is affecting the corporate perspective.
It's definitely highlighting the interest in where investors can see returns. When you look at performance, the biotech or healthcare index is the second most highest performing sector when you look at overall sectors in the market. And the breakdown of the healthcare is really the biotech sector that's leading that performance. So anytime you have that type of performance number, and when you look at 22.7% ahead of where we were 3 months ago, people are going to take notice of that. And when you look at what's driving it, it really is these innovative biotech companies. Many of them are on the forefront of the fight for COVID, but they're also platform companies. So what they're working on today and what the tools they're using to create vaccines and therapies, they're not single platforms that only work with one type of vaccine or one type of therapeutic. They can use their technology to apply it to other future challenges that may come up in this world that we have. You never know. And I don't think anyone thought COVID was in their forecast or their predictions of things that were likely to happen. But things happen, and when they come up, it's how quickly these companies can adapt, leveraging the technology and innovate to come up with a solution that could not only help the company, but help the world. Yeah.
Are there expectations for these CEOs or CFOs to decide to either take advantage of this by issuing new shares, or how do they capitalize on this environment where there's so much interest in a lot of these companies that are still small to medium-sized businesses that were not really on the top of investors' lists coming into this? They were focused on the big giants, the Mercks and the BMYs and stuff. A company like Moderna, is there share offerings on the horizon? Is there debt on the horizon? How do they take advantage of an environment where people are willing to give them cash?
So I think when you look at how a biotech company takes a drug through the long process, many years to drug approval, it requires lots of cash. And there's different inflection points of where a company will go out to the market to raise cash. It could be at an IPO. It could be on a follow-on offering. And it's very common for these companies to start out in the private sector, do a seed round, do a Series A, do a B, do a crossover, an IPO, and then follow-ons in the capital markets. So this is really the nature of the process of taking a drug through the clinical trial and FDA approval. And I think what this is doing is it's highlighting to all the private biotech companies out there that are working on similar types of, whether it's oncology, whether it's a telemedicine company that's leveraging healthcare technology, or whether it's a vaccine or mRNA company focus, that this is an opportunity for them to tell their story, or investors who may not have been as receptive to listen to the benefits of these types of technologies are now seeing how valuable they can really be in the current market.
Is there an expectation for then maybe a more IPOs, even though the environment for IPOs may not be ideal. Actually, I don't know. I guess it depends on your perspective. The Fed seems to be behind the market, but we've also got a lot of volatility. Are there biotech companies waiting in the wings that see the success of some of these other companies and say, hey, we've got cutting edge stuff too. We need to get to market ASAP?
It's a really interesting question because when you look at it from a numbers perspective, we're actually tracking right where we were last year from a percentage of the overall market activity. So obviously, COVID has slowed down the IPO market, but it hasn't really impacted the biotech market in a similar fashion because we've had 6 recent biotechs go public, all using technology for video conferencing roadshows. They're able to not only execute the roadshow, but they're able to go public and perform extremely well. When you look at the average 30-day median performance for the class of 2020 IPOs, we're over 38%, which is incredible when you think about not only the IPO market, but in general to last year's numbers where it was around 4%. So clearly there's interest here. The performance numbers not only validate this, and I think you're going to see more and more IPOs in the biotech sector come to market. In addition to healthcare, telemedicine, you'll see some SPACs and you'll see technology IPOs coming to market. But biotech has really been the silver lining here, leading this new emergence of IPOs for 2020.
All right, exciting stuff. Performance so far pretty darn good for a lot of the recent IPOs now, as we see all of these headline stories pushing Nasdaq Biotech Index near all-time highs right now. Really great insight for us, Jordan. Appreciate you joining us. Jordan Sachs, head of healthcare listings at the Nasdaq.